Okay, so now I've got my real dream team side, and as per my AFL fantasy video, if the players are part of either the AFL fantasy team or Supercoach team, I won't be going through them again. You can look through the previous videos, or you can ask me in the comments section below if there's a player that I haven't mentioned or isn't part of my team that you want my take on. But yeah, really, I'll just go through for the most part anyway. What's my structure? Why have I structured the way I have? And then who are the best of the rookie options? And look, there might be one or two players that I don't have in my fantasy or supercoach team, so they're more the ones that I'll broadly be talking about in this video. So looking through the defense, Dacos and Sheasel I have in both supercoach and fantasy. Whitfield I've only got in fantasy. Young I've got in both. Salem I've got in just fantasy, and Williams I've got in both. And then I've gone Reed and Phillips on my bench. So defense I've structured up really the same as I have in fantasy because I don't want to be fielding any defense rookies. Caulfield I could very easily consider, but I do have questions around his job security. But yeah, if I was more confident on that and I was sure that after say 3 or 4 rounds that he would hold his spot, well then you could even make a case that he could be fielded. They're the questions I've got given. The Dogs have a reasonable group of general defenders. So, we'll have to see how things play out there and whether he can really maintain that spot for more than just a few weeks, if he is, even if he is named round 1. Mids, again, you'll see a pretty similar flavour to what I've got in AFL Fantasy. But yeah, basically, Parrish I think it was just in Supercoach. I'll just check quickly. Yeah, Parrish I had in Supercoach. And yeah, just a little bit underpriced for me. So one that just sort of, I guess, structurally fit. Wasn't a priority to include, but yeah, a little bit underpriced, and he'll be one of the sort of pretty high scorers amongst the mids. So he could be a top 10 mid, and I don't think that'd be particularly surprising. Steele Miller, they're in both teams and just so underpriced, I can't not have him. Martin I've got in AFL Fantasy, and I'm doing the same here in Real Dream Team. I just think the value's there ultimately, and then having that scope to switch to defense is pretty handy to say the least, in my opinion. Wines, having both, very underpriced. Bonner, I've just got in fantasy, and I think he's a risk worth considering for fantasy. Not a must-have, but one I certainly like. And then I've gone with the same rookies across everything, except Hustwaite I didn't have in fantasy because he's a bit overpriced in that format, unfortunately. So, that's how I've done it. But essentially, you've got your 3 rookies here, and I've gone with 2 on the field. You could have a third here if you wished. So let's say a Manor is named in round 1. Well, great. You could have him in one of the spots, and then you could easily move whether it's a Clark, Hustwaite, maybe even a Roberts to the field potentially. Or the options are otherwise, you've got a Bonner, you could have a Berry. If you really want to, you could go someone more high priced depending on how your team is structured, but you need at least these 2 rookies on the field, and this one's sort of a rookie / a rookie-esque just above type price. So that's how I'm seeing the midfield. With the ruck, it's just basically I've got both of these in Supercoach and AFL Fantasy, both Gawn and Grundy, and then Naismith I've just got in Supercoach. And then obviously Real Dream Team, I've got him again just because of the price point. In fantasy is just too overpriced. So that wouldn't have worked. And then I've got the forwards. So pretty much the same general type of structure. The only unique player is Billings. So he's the only player I don't have in Supercoach or AFL Fantasy. I found in AFL Fantasy he was a bit overpriced, and Supercoach is not as suited to the scoring style as a few others. So, he should still score fine, and great price point in Supercoach. So, one I very strongly considered. And let's say Fife got injured tomorrow, Billings would be probably my first in, top of mind. So, Fisher have in both. Sardis I've only got in fantasy. I don't have him in Supercoach. Jordan I've got in both. And then, Reed Sexton have in both. And then Dempsey Wilson have in both. And again, this is my structure from Supercoach with my forwards, where I've gone the 2 on the bench, the 2 on the field. I think that's the way to go. And then from there, it's really just, pretty mid-price heavy amongst these group. There's just so much value. It's incredible. I couldn't even fit it, say, in Nat Fife. Not that I think is necessarily as suited to the scoring in fantasy, but he's one that maybe you could potentially consider. But yeah, I've got him in Supercoach. So yeah, hopefully that gives you some ideas. And yeah, again, feel free to copy my structure. Feel free to copy my rookies selected, and then yeah, pick your own mid prices and premiums. But I do think this will be a pretty well optimized structure, because ultimately there's not much in the way of defenders who will make a heap of money. If you have to have another, Caulfield you could risk potentially having, and probably for fantasy and real dream team purposes, probably field him. If it's for Supercoach, for those that are interested in Supercoach, I'd probably field Reed first, but you could go either way with Caulfield and Reed, and I don't think you'd lose a heap of sleep. And again, if I had to field anyone, so for Supercoach, you could go either Clark or Hustwaite, either way. For fantasy, I don't know. Again, it's a rough tie. Maybe Clark ever so slightly, but yeah, not sure ultimately with this group here. And yeah, with the forwards, it's a must having the two rookies on the field. You could at a push have a third, depending on sort of if you want less mid prices. I could understand that. If you want to be more premium heavy, that's fine. Because you've got a Wilson who could probably then be fielded, a Dempsey, and then let's say a Mana plays, well then you can easily put him on the bench. So there's some of the options you've got within this, but yeah, essentially I've really covered the key names that really you should be looking at in terms of certainly the rookie price types. And then from there, fill out, again, your mid prices and premiums as you feel like. So yeah, if you enjoy this, fantastic. And yeah, in my next video, I am planning a season prediction video. So I'll get that in just before the start of the season. I might have to upload that one tomorrow, and these ones I'll try and get out tonight. But yeah, essentially I want to get it all in before the start of the AFL season. So let's see what I can do with all that. But yeah, anyway, see you in the next one.